So, like you said, we were very unsupervised watching movies as a kid, and that's I feel like. So, is that kind of how you started watching a lot of horror? Because I know you said you're a fan of horror. So, was it basically having free reign to watch whatever you wanted? You started,
hmm
you know, delving into more and more towards stuff you weren't supposed to watch.
I think so. One of the earlier horror movies. I mean, there was like, especially in the early '80s, there was a lot of horror actually, but
Yeah.
by today's standards, like they come off as super campy.
Mm,
But one that really stuck with me was always Nightmare on Elm Street, the
yeah.
original.
Yeah.
That's the
Same.
first one I remember actually giving me nightmares from watching it. And that's one of the few that
Johnny
was,
Depp's first role, isn't it?
huh?
I think that's
Edward
Johnny Depp's.
Scissorhands.
No, no, no.
Oh,
Nightmare on Elm
oh,
Street.
he was in that.
I think is the
Wow.
debut. Pretty sure he dies in the waterbed scene,
Oh,
or maybe that's Nightmare on Elm Street 2. But yeah, I watched all of those too as a kid. We
is
had
that the
the.
one?
Go ahead.
Oh, is that the one where all the blood was just like shooting up onto the ceiling,
I think
almost like a
so.
reverse waterfall effect?
He sees like the hot chick swimming in the waterbed beneath him, and
Okay.
then Freddy like stabs his hands up through the waterbed and then like slices him up. And I think there is like a fountain of blood moment.
hmm
But yeah, I loved some Nightmare on Elm Street. I was Freddy for Halloween.
Nice.
Yeah, my mom did like a
Classic.
paper
Classic.
mache custom.
Oh,
She
that's
put
cool.
she did pantyhose over my face and then did all kinds of makeup and paper mache over that to make it me look like a burn victim.
Nice.
It was
Man, way to
very
go, mom.
yeah, it was a very cool Halloween outfit.
Damn.
Um, but yeah, that's the same way we got into horror too. Is I think the parents went away on like an extended vacation, and our babysitter was like, "Oh, we're gonna watch all the Friday the 13th." And so we went to
Nice.
the movie store and rented like 10 of them, and then just watched those all weekend. And that was the first like time I watched an adult horror,
hmm
what was considered to be adult horror at the time, because Friday the 13th I think was one of the more gory
Yeah, I
of.
feel like the violence was always pretty explicit. Like they showed you of it's like people getting nailed with a machete.
Yeah. Well, and Nightmare on Elm Street is Wes Craven. Is that right?
That sounds right. God, I feel like I should really know this stuff, but
Or is it John Carpenter? It's either Carpenter or Craven. Yeah.
I feel like it's Craven, Wes Craven.
Yeah. And then is Craven also the. Oh, shoot. Again, I should know more about this. I think Craven said he had a trilogy of movies that he considered to be the apocalypse. And the last one was, oh my god, I'm drawing a blank on this too. Is the one with the magicians in the Mouth of Madness? You ever seen that?
Oh, what the author is a guy who's writing a book, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one was really cool.
hmm
Or no, what was the magician one though? There was one with the
There's
magician, but the magic was real because they
was like
made a deal with like basically made a deal with the devil to make his magic real. And then uh
that's
oh
not anything to do with Phantasm, is it? Where it's like
no,
this
it's
old man
let me look up Wes
made the
Craven
magic
here.
real.
No, it was it was 90s for sure. And then it is Craven's The Nightmare on Elm Street.
Okay.
No, no people under the stairs. It was all the Krugers.
Because In the Mouth of Madness was definitely about it was an author and the book he was writing was turning out to be like a real thing.
Yeah, and that one was really cool with Sam Neill.
hmm
Sam Neill's like low key horror fan, right? Event Horizon,
Yeah, I feel like
In the
he's
Mouth of
in like that
Madness.
genre quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't seen him in anything recently that's been that cool, but he
hmm
was in a lot of great movies for a period.
Yeah.
Um,
Jurassic Park too, actually, right?
First Jurassic Park.
Uh-huh.
Um, I feel like he's a sci-fi guy, right? Like he probably
Yeah.
read some Crichton at some point and then was like, "Oh, I'll
It's
be
like this is my thing.
yeah, he's into some cool stuff."
Yeah.
Um, so you gave me a list of kind of some of your favorites to watch,
Hmm.
and I watched everything. Some stuff I had already seen, and
Okay.
the only one I'm a little bit dry on is VHS because I watched it and remembered it being very cool, but I don't remember. I don't remember the details of it, but I remember watching it and
Yeah.
walking away from it like, "Oh, that was awesome." And then I watched the sequels, and I remember the sequels being not as good
I feel
as the
like
first one.
Yeah, I feel like VHS. I kind of so when I say VHS, I guess I kind of think of the entire span. I think it's all four movies at this point.
Mm.
So they're yeah, the first one had a lot of solid stuff, and after that it was very hit or miss. But the ones that were a hit for me just really worked. And I'm always a sucker for horror anthologies because I like the short story format for horror because I feel like it kind of gets right to the point instead of long build up, the drama. It's just like, you want horror? Here it is. We got 15 minutes.
Yeah, and I think some of the best writing too is in short stories. Like all Stephen King's short stories have been
Yeah.
turned into a lot of different shows and things like that
Hmm.
because um, I think it's that kind of agreed upon concept is the coolest part of horror is the mystery of it, right?
Right.
So it's like don't say too much.
Hmm.
Like let us leave us hanging kind of and let us ponder what lies in the darkness basically. Um
Exactly.
yeah, cuz
Yeah. For
once we
me,
know what
it's
the monster is, it's not as scary.
exactly. Yeah. Which kind of ties to like one of the other movies on that list, uh, The Endless,
Yeah, so
where
Endless
it's
was really cool. I like that they had I like that it was writers that also starred in and produced.
yeah,
So it's like
yeah,
guys that tried to make something and it got to make it, which is always cool to
right.
see.
And it
Um,
wasn't until sometime after I had seen The Endless the first time that I realized that there were two movies before that one, and it was all part of the same world essentially.
oh, it is. So they have a prequel and
So
another one
there's
after.
yeah, so there's they both are prequels. So there's one called Spring, which I feel like is kind of like its own separate storyline, but it's essentially about uh he goes on vacation. I think he's in Italy. He meets this mysterious girl who has been alive for hundreds of years, and every like 100 years or so she gives birth to like a creature or something, but she has to be in love in order to stay alive. I haven't actually seen that one. I've just seen like synopsis on it. They always said it's an interesting storyline that fits in that same world, but it relies less on horror and more about like this almost like comedic relationship.
Oh, really? And
But
it's the same writers?
yeah, same guys, but its resolution is the one that takes place directly before the Endless. And that deals mostly with the two guys inside of that house where the one dude's like chained up and
Mm.
he's like trying to, break his drug habit.
Right. And so anybody that hasn't seen Endless, the premise is there's these two brothers that have escaped from a UFO death cult. And then they, without spoiling too much of it, they return to the death cult. They're basically unhappy in the outside world away from the cult. And one of the brothers kind of wants some closure. So they go back to visit the death cult again. And then weirdness ensues. Uh, and I felt overall the movie's a really great example of not having to do too much and still have it be very, very interesting and intriguing. Like it's one location basically, and they did have some visual effects money put into it, but not a crazy amount at all. And it didn't have to be this whole big extravaganza of effects or huge actors or anything like that. It was just such an interesting story that the more you watch the more intrigued you are as the story goes on with it.
Yeah, it dealt with a lot with, and the thing that I loved about it is just the idea of the unknown. There's something greater than these people, that they can't see, but it exists and it very much controls them. So there's definitely moments in the movie where it's like unexplainable things. Like
Yeah.
just one small moment where the guy's like, "Hey, do you want to see a magic trick?" And eventually it leads to him having a baseball, and he throws it up in the air, and it just doesn't come back down.
Right.
Where it's stuff that just couldn't possibly ever happen, but they always allude to like some sort of I don't know. I can't help but to compare it to like H.P. Lovecraft, of the idea of
Right.
there being like this sort of elder god that exists. And
Yeah, and that was the feeling, is not knowing what the, like, you felt this evil presence,
mhm,
and it was for sure evil. There was something off about it. And like you
yeah,
said, each one of those little unique mysterious instances that happen just made you more and more curious as you watched the movie.
right, yeah,
Um, that said, there was some weird camera stuff though going on with the cinematography. Like when they do pans, there
hmm,
was like a weird lens distortion at the edge of frame, and I don't know if that was an accident or on purpose, because it did kind of. The feeling I had was is that it was an accident, and like it was an error in the lens, but it played in well, so they were like, "Oh, cool, just leave it."
yeah, yeah.
Because
I
it
haven't
kind of
noticed.
did make you a little off base, like, oh, woo, when he's like looking and they're panning with him and doing almost like a 360 pan, and
Yeah,
then there was like lens distortion happening at the edges of frame.
I could see
Uh,
that as being like a distortion of reality or
mm,
something, of where things. I guess to like build that sense of unease, like something's not right.
yeah. I had a cool feeling watching it too, because I had watched it when it first came out years ago, but
Hmm.
I'd forgot almost everything. So I kind of was like in the exact ironically, I was in the exact mindset of the movie watching it, where everything was kind of familiar, but I didn't remember anything. Like, oh, I totally remember that guy. What was up with that guy?
Yeah, yeah.
Like the guy that's pacing around, you know?
Oh yeah, yeah. The like super
Yeah.
angry dude.
Yeah, when I saw him, that's when I remembered. I was like, I remember that guy. I've watched this. But it was a it was a great rewatch because I had forgotten almost all of it.
Yeah, same.
Uh,
I just watched it again recently too to kind of refresh myself, and a lot of it I had forgotten. And I feel like by watching it again, I got a little bit more out of it, because I definitely feel like it's one of those movies where, as long as you pay close enough attention, it does explain enough for you to understand what's happening. But it's so easy to miss stuff, like
yeah,
the idea of these time loops that are occurring, but it's different for different people in different areas where they have different lengths of time.
yep.
And
And I like how many elements were unexplained, left unexplained, like the
mhm,
math equation he was working on.
yeah.
And I love little hits like that where it just adds to the lore,
Mhm.
and it spins your brain up even more with what's already going on. And even though you don't get resolution to it, it added to the lore and made the lore cooler.
Yeah, it forces you to think about it and to like come up with your own ideas and theories of what's going on.
Right.
Because I especially with horror movies, I hate it when they spoon feed you everything. I'm like, no, let there be the unknown, because when your imagination starts going with this stuff, that's when it starts to really become unsettling and frightening to me.
Yep.
And I think that's true for a lot of people.
Right. And what I saw a meme the other day that said nightmares are just free horror movies that you write, direct, and star in.
Nice. I never heard that one. I like
Yeah.
it.
So the Endless, yeah, the Endless is very cool. It's a solid watch. It's also streaming free on Amazon right now,
Hmm.
with ads though.
Yeah.
That's the only kicker. I'm gonna definitely have to go back and check out, like you said, if there's other surrounding movies in that universe. I'm definitely interested in checking all that out.
Yeah.
And
Resolution,
then
I recommend.
I wonder if the have those writers done anything else recently that's as cool, or thought provoking as that.
Nothing that I know of.
Yeah.
I didn't see anything pop up, and usually you watch a movie and you see other recommended stuff, or it'll be from the same people. But I didn't
Right.
see anything recent from them.
Um, yeah, fair enough. They're living off the cream from the Endless.
That's right,
Uh,
getting that oil change money
yeah,
from the ads.
getting that 1/100th of 1 penny for every stream. Uh,